In this video, I want to talk to you about two of the conceptual models of division that have been discussed in the class. And these two are so often confused, so I just wanted to go through some of the basics with you so you can see the difference before you start working. And it's repeated subtraction and partition. So first, just a quick comparison, because you'll be given the same problem and asked to model it using these two different methods. So repeated subtraction, you just need to remember, is the same thing as takeaway model. And if you're taking away, that's a subtraction model. And remember, whenever we take away, we group and actually draw arrows out. So if you're given two numbers, and I'll show you an example in just a minute, the first number that you're given for the repeated subtraction model is the number of objects that you want to begin with. So you will start with that amount of objects, and then the second number, whatever number you're dividing by, is how many you're going to put in a group and take away. So you're going to group this amount and take away. Okay, when we're talking about partition, the number that you're going to start with is the second number, and this tells you the number of partitions you need. Okay, so whatever your second number is, that's how many partitions you're going to create. Then you're going to take the first number and you're going to divide out into each partition one at a time that many objects. So I'm going to say place figures, or place objects one at a time in each partition. In each partition until the desired amount is reached. Okay, so let's look at an example. You might jot this down so you can kind of keep in mind what you're doing. And I'll look at the repeated subtraction and partition both. Okay, so it says illustrate 8 divided by 4 using each of these models. So repeated subtraction is the same thing as the takeaway model. It's also the set model. So I'm going to create me a set of objects. Okay. Remember, if I'm doing 8 divided by 4, the very first number tells me how many objects I need to start with. So in here, I need to put 8 objects, and I'm just going to use X's. So here's my 8 objects. Okay, in the classroom, you can use anything that you have. Then it tells me divided by 4. So the second number tells me how many objects I'm grouping and taking away. Now, here's where you benefit, and your students won't necessarily. You know that 8 divided by 4 is 2. So you know that your answer should illustrate 2. Okay, so I'm grouping 4 objects at a time, and I'm going to take them away. You have to have the arrow indicating take away, otherwise it refers to a multiplication model. Okay, I'm going to group the other 4 and take them away. However many objects you take away, or however many groups you take away, which in this case we took away 2 groups, that is your answer. Okay, now let's look at it with partition. Remember, we said just a second ago that the second number tells you how many partitions you need. So I need 4 partitions. So I'm going to draw 3 dotted lines. This will be my first one, my second one, my third one, and my 4th partition here. If you don't have the dotted lines, when it's all said and done, it looks like a multiplication model. So you want to be sure that you're illustrating division, so be sure that you include those partitions in there. Okay, so we have 4 partitions. Then I have 8 objects that I need to place in these partitions equally if possible. So I'm going to place 1 object per partition until I have 8. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Then my answer in this case, like I said, you know your answer is 2, but where does that answer come from? It comes from the number of objects you have in one partition. Okay, so in that case, your answer is 2 as well. So be sure that you note the difference and be sure that you can illustrate those to where it's clear. Otherwise, it's really confusing for your students.